Hi, I'd like to welcome you to the Crucible of Thought podcast. I'm Brandon, and I'm here to share things that interest me and things that I think the Lord has brought to my attention. This is episode number 104, and it's titled The Minions of P.T. Barnum. Barnum is famously reputed to have said, "There's a sucker born every minute." I'd add a modern corollary that says, "There's a grifter born every minute to feed those suckers," especially in today's social media world. Well, a few days ago in late March, the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore collapsed after it was struck by a cargo ship that lost power and steering at a very inopportune moment. CNN published an article about the collapse a couple days later, describing how many conspiracy theories popped up within mere minutes, even in the wee hours of the morning, and with plenty more following over the next few days. It was clear that plenty of people were jumping on the crazy train. But why? I think that most of the nonsense about the bridge was coming from conservatives anxious to find fault with the current Democrat administrations of the U.S. and of Baltimore. Unfortunately, the conservatives are where most of the conspiracy thinking originates right now, and that has been true for a few years. But lest you think that I'm picking on the Republicans, this works just as well in reverse. A simple review of history will show this to be true. The reason for this current bloom in conspiracy thinking seems obvious to me. It's people, especially Christians, who are feeling dangerously out of control and increasingly desperate to A, regain control of politics and religion, and B, find some narrative that explains why they're not in control after being, apparently at least, in control for several centuries. Conspiracy theories feed this need for control and narrative by explaining that bad things in their world are caused by evil forces opposed to their pet theology and politics. So they readily latch on to whatever explanation restores some sense of understanding and control. And when it comes to conspiracy thinking, it doesn't matter how unlikely the explanation is. In some ways, the more unlikely, the better. The crazier a conspiracy theory is, the more captivating, because it's deeper and darker than the simpler one, thus proving a worse danger that deserves even more attention. And of course, there are plenty of charlatans and opportunists who are more than happy to profit on providing those explanations. And social media really enables such grifters like never before, really all the way up to a former president and plenty of members of Congress. The much harder thing to do in situations like this, instead of leaning into conspiratorial thinking, is to A, be introspective about our own culpability in something, but more importantly, admit that sometimes life just sucks. Both are needed right now, especially for conservatives, because A, a lot of the conservative collapse is self-immolation. I know this because I was one of them for over 40 years until 2020, so it's personal. And B, admitting the inevitability of pain is hardest for a conservative with an idealistic view of economy and religion to fix everything. Well, for those of us determined not to hop on that crazy train, it's incredibly frustrating. I'm convinced all we can do is watch and resist the trends, but we have to start by admitting that there's literally nothing we can do for people who buy into the conspiracies. The more we protest, the more facts we present to challenge the conspiracy, well, then the more we appear to be part of it, and we only reinforce their paranoia. And that's tough for those of us on the outside of the insanity, because we clearly see the real danger of collapse of our systems and our institutions from the actions of the gullible people, not from their pet conspiracies. And we don't have the soporific of conspiracy to drug us into going along with it. Since the conspiracists are not likely to go away anytime soon, what do? I'm afraid the answer is admitting that we can't fix this. It's really, truly likely to ultimately result in the very thing that they're warning about, breakdown. But the true cause will be the conspiracy believers, not the things they're worried about. Like I said, it's self-immolation. The irony is stunning. The persecution against churchianity is caused by their own ranting and raving and misbehaving, not by what they oppose and fear will cause the persecution. So I really do think it's going to get much worse before it gets better, if it ever does. Am I being defeatist here? I don't think so. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. But this seems like a simple analysis of the trends. So I'm prepared to be right. And I have to trust in God and my faith to get me through it. I can't trust the government to fix this. It's already proven itself incapable, especially because those gullible people are the ones electing and being the leaders. And I can't trust organized institutional religion to fix this. Since 2016, it's repeatedly proven to make it worse, not better. Instead, this is just between me and God and living in deep community with other exiles and being faithful as things get darker. So ultimately, the best I can do is to show people around me a different way of living in this world, being peaceful and gracious and loving and giving and serving, even as things go to literal hell around me. Because that feels most Christ-like. It's not trying to be the savior riding in on a white horse with a sword coming from his mouth, coming to fix things. No, it's serving like Mother Teresa in Hell on Earth, setting a different and very humble example, trusting God with the results. It's being like Jesus, loving and touching the unclean and being willing to die for his convictions. And I won't stop speaking about the conspiracy theory craziness, but I'm going to do it from a position of gentility and grace and peace, inviting others off the crazy train and into a walk with Christ in the dry and dusty but peaceful desert. Thanks for joining me today for a few minutes, and we'll talk again soon. Bye-bye.